We're back. Hello, everyone. This is Anonymous Addiction Deprogramming Podcast. Okay. When I say deprogramming, we're deprogramming about AA, 12 steps, and society and the world. And we're learning a bunch of new things. That's what shadow work is all about. Discovering new stuff, working on our unconscious and subconscious and bringing it up to the conscious level. So Rainey is here with us again. I think it's this way for part 3 with my friend over here in Florida, which I'll be coming out there and seeing you all probably May, June. So just tell us where we can catch you, Ray.
Yeah, Rainy St. Pierre. Thank you, Bobby. Unconquered Healing. You can find me on any of the TikTok. I can't believe I'm saying this. I used to avoid these things like the plague. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I'm starting a YouTube channel just to inform people of what I knew and you knew, and I think everybody intuitively knows, but the cognitive dissonance is so great that you can't break through. And so I started a coaching business that one-on-one coaching. I offer 30-minute consultations, 60-minute consultations. You can talk to somebody that has already been brainwashed and has now unbrainwashed himself and can see through common sense and 22 years experience that labels don't work. Labels are, like Bobby's hat says, no more labels. It's toxic. And for 20 years, I tried to fit a square peg into a round hole and conform to what I discovered was a lie. And seeing that 99% of the treatment centers are all 12-step based, and every therapist I've ever sat across was 12-step based. So that means that they don't even really know anything outside of the diseased way of thinking. And that's what I offer. I'm offering you just don't know that yet, because you are the solution, and you've been brainwashed as I was to believe that the solution was outside of myself, and the solution is within, and the solution is changing my preference for getting intoxicated, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol. And I'll hold the space for you to figure out what you want. And once you really realize how simple it really is, and that I just mind fucked myself. I won't tell you what you did because I don't know you. I know me, and I'm an expert in me as you are an expert in you. And I needed a coach to hold the space for me to find me again, to realize that I was in charge the whole time, and everything was a choice my entire life. No matter how deep and no matter how dark, there was some sort of, the positive drive principle. There was something positive in me choosing to get high rather than be sick for 7 to 10 days or whatever it was. There was always something that it's ultimately just comes down to a choice. And I was never told that. And if you don't admit that you're powerless, if you don't admit you're diseased, if you don't admit you're insane, if you don't admit that you believe in Santa Claus and that he's going to come save you, and that you're happy, joyous, and free, coming out of the mouths of the most miserable human beings I've ever fucking heard speak in my life, but then you're going to tell me that I'm judgmental because I'm being observational about the lies that you're spewing out of your mouth about how happy, joyous, and free you are, sitting in a church basement, putting $1 in a basket, smoking yourself to death, eating yourself to death, saying, I'm so fucking happy. Yeah, energy speaks volumes. So I started a coaching business because I couldn't find anything out there to help me, and I helped me. And I know that not everyone can do that. Not everybody can do that. And some people just need a hand out, not a hand out, a hand up. You just to know that everybody wasn't out there trying to take. I had to go completely out of the 12 steps. I had nothing to do with anything to do with the people that ended up helping me. they wouldn't have known what a step was or an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting was if it hit them in the face. And that's ultimately what how I found my path to freedom. And it was outside the restricted walls of the 12 steps of Alcoholics and Narcotics Anonymous.
That's a good, you know what, I want to pause right there, and I want to chime in on that because I wrote a bunch of stuff out about that. You know, I do some research before podcasts, and I kind of write things down because Rini goes with the flow. He's got this talent, and it just comes out of him. And that's like the authentic, natural, just the natural self. Here's what I discovered through 38 years in this recovery community, you know, around, let's just say, this discovery community. Now, forget the recovery. It's a recovery community, but it's a discovery community that I joined. I joined a lot of different groups that talk about a lot of different things about life and about society and about the universe. This is what I found out. I go to meetings. See, the 12 steps are like a mind merry-go-round fuckery. Okay. It leads you nowhere but to God. Okay. My next podcast on comparing shadow work with 12 step is on step 3. And, you know, that altogether right there is total demonstration of manipulation, indoctrination, getting you to this God concept. When they say God, they mean Alcoholics Anonymous. It says it right there. I'm going to show right back. It's so contradictory that it's pathetic. But this is what the point where Rainey left off at. I seen a lot of people do pretty good shadow work, but it was always done outside of Alcoholics Anonymous. Always. It was, they come back and they said, oh, they did some therapy. They did some, they went to some yoga, some mindful therapy. They did some group therapy. They did a psychoanalysis, you know, psychoanalysis. They were going outside and then coming back in and sharing their experience. And it seemed like it was coming from Alcoholics Anonymous when it wasn't. It was always coming from the outside. And when I say the outside, I mean the outside were pointers to the way. It's always us, no question. And me and Rainey are on the same page with that. It always comes from us. But what I'm saying is they want us to believe that it's coming from the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous when it's not. Most of this stuff is coming from exterior, the people that really continue to take personal inventory and do self-seeking and self-searching, self-awakening and self-awareness. Here's why I know. And Rainey talks about observation and experience and experiment. And this is what I've seen through my life journey in Alcoholics Anonymous, is that most of the people go into rehab and they work the couples 1 to 3, 1 to 4. Some of them work all 12 steps. They come out of the rehab, go into Alcoholics Anonymous, and here they think they're done of self-evaluation. And then you come into Alcoholics Anonymous and you're working the 12 steps. Matter of fact, I just got this book. It says 12 steps in 12 weeks. Okay. So these people think that they're doing these steps 1 through 12, and it's done. It's over. No more. I completed them. And I see that so much over and over and over. And they talk about, I cleaned house. I did my inventory. I did my 4th and 5th. I did my 8th and 9th. I did my 10th step. And now I'm on step 12 and I'm helping others. And they're still bullshitting themselves because they did no shadow work whatsoever. Okay. Can you relate to that, Rainey?
They didn't. Dude, the 12 steps got me. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's all that it was. Like, that's why I would put together a year and then relapse, and 2 years and relapse, and jump through every hoop they did. Like at first, I just tried to go to meetings and that didn't work. And then I ended up in a fundamentalist 12-step big book, in a rehab where they take you through and they tell you that the solution is in the first 164 pages. And I bought into that for about 13 years in my head, but my life experience didn't add up to that. And unfortunately, but fortunately for me, I had the guru of this cult as a sponsor, as a best friend. And I had went out and I had volunteered on Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. I had done Jungian analysis. I had went and did the White Bison, Red Road to Wellbriety 12-step trainings. I had went to this forgiveness walk in 2008 with Don Coyas and them from White Bison. Like I had went to therapy. I was trying everything because what was really interesting about the group I fell in, they told the truth about meetings. They told the truth that meetings were a waste of time. They shit all over meetings. They shit all over AA. But where they got you was they said it's because it's supposed to be done this way. This is the way Bill and Bob wanted it done. And my group of friends that I got sober with in 2005, I came back in 2018 and they were all gurus, like guru status. And these were like my boys. And they all own sober houses and treatment centers. And it's just like, I know what really goes on. You feel me? So you can stand up on the podium and but I know the relationship you have with your wife. I know what's going on financially. I know, and honestly, so does most of the community, right? So it's like, why don't we just throw this whole thing out and just start living our lives? We all make mistakes. Sometimes, right? Infidelity happens. Sometimes we gamble to deal with our feelings. Sometimes I put on 20 pounds to deal with my feelings. All these different things that are pathologized within the 12 steps that make you think you're fucking crazy when all you are is a human being. All you are is a human being. And the pharmaceutical industry took over from Bill Wilson, Dr. Bob, Dr. Silkworth, and Rockefeller, and now they're more than happy to provide you a drug for this disease that isn't a disease. That, interesting enough, the 1914 Harrison Act, which stopped the prescribing of narcotics, like all drugs were legal up until 1919. The reason the Harrison Act came into thing, and the reason they cannot prescribe, if I go to my doctor right now and say, I'm hooked on oxycodone, I need more, they by law cannot prescribe me any more drugs because I claim to be a drug addict. You want to know why? Because drug addiction is not a disease. That is what's stated in the 1914 Harrison Act. It's all bullshit. And I spent 20 years of my life chasing my own tail, giving the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and my sponsor credit for everything that I personally did, my blood, my sweat, my tears. And then all they did was tell me I was selfish. Everything just got spun back when I got surgery and quote unquote relapse, but I chose to use for 8 years because I was fulfilling the self-fulfilling prophecy. All that my cohort of cult members from AA did was tell me, you relapsed because you were so selfish. I lost 130 pounds. I went back. I got my degree in psychology. I became a 200-hour certified yoga teacher. I was in the best shape of my life. Met the girl of my dreams, and according to them, I relapsed, not because I got surgery and had Oxycontin and oxycodone in my system and then chose to get high. The reason was because I was so selfish and I didn't give God enough credit for what I had done. Like, but how can you argue that? When I was in detox, a complete mess, I was like, oh my God, you no good, selfish piece of shit, Rainey. You lost all that weight and you didn't give God enough credit. You made hundreds of thousands of dollars and learned about the stock market and you didn't give God enough credit. What the fuck? God has nothing to, very little, if anything, to do with addiction. I happen to believe in the universe and energy. I call it God because that's an easy word. But come on, God has been used to manipulate the masses for centuries, right? Just look at the Catholic Church and all the pedophiles. No different than AA and what goes on with the 13th step that everybody just jokes about. Right? There's people dying because of this 13th step thing, and everybody just, it's a big joke.
Exactly. Yeah, I like to touch on that. That's what this third step's all about. This third step is all about getting you to believe that you it goes back. It says you got to use your will to become willing to give your will to God. I mean, that's how crazy it is. And it says it over and over again. You got to use your will and your willingness. You got to be accepted, which you don't have any will, because you got to give it to God.
It's just a big mind fuck.
Right. So step 3 is we're going to get in. I'm going to get into that. But getting back to shadow work, which let's say, it's another word. It's been used for a long time. What it just means is, I agree with this though. Self-analysis is the greatest art of progress. Okay. But sometimes we don't even know we're in this word. We're just doing it. It's almost becomes natural after a while. But I want to talk about a little bit about myself with this shadow work stuff, with this inventory stuff, with this self-appraisal, self-knowledge, self-awareness, higher inner child work, healing the trauma and all this other stuff. Me personally started on this journey a long time ago. But this is what happens in my life. And I think people can relate to this, because when we listen to people, we think, oh, they did shadow work. They went to a retreat for 3 months and now they're cured. Ladies and gentlemen, or to the people, that's not how it works. There's no such thing as that, because it's impossible to dig all that unconscious bullshit from trauma out in months. I'm still doing it. Maybe I'm sicker than you. I don't know. Maybe I'm a sick son of a bitch that's sicker than a lot of people. But all I know is that I used to go back into, I call it the cave. I go back, I start this shadow work, and I start this discovery, finding things out about myself, my childhood, about my relationship with my wife, my children, work and society. And I feel this freedom. And then I start to feel like there's something wrong. I feel a loss, like it's almost like something's missing. I feel a loss. I feel confused, and I feel alone. And that's the point where I should keep on going. But no, I go back into the cave. I go back into the cave and say, fuck this shit. This ain't working. Something's wrong. And I go back into the same cycle of bullshit that I did. And I go back in for a long time, okay, during my 38 years or during my life. And I'm old, okay? And I'm still checking into it, still discovering, still working a process of where I'm at, what I should do, what I shouldn't do. And I'm very careful today. I'm very careful about it today. But I go back into the caves, and I sabotaged myself so many damn times. It was pathetic if I look back in my life. Sabotage myself. Like Rainey was talking about, I was starting a healing center. It was called Four Peaks Healing Center in Arizona in Fountain Hills 30 years ago. Okay. I was just looking through all my shit in my letters and stuff like that. I was over my daughter's garage. I had people signed up for membership and everything. And then suddenly I wasn't good enough. I'm doing something wrong. I'm prostituting or some addiction, not alcohol and drugs, but some other addiction got me sidetracked. And I didn't have any confidence in myself. I did this over and over. Before that, I went to Southwest Institute of Healing Arts over 34 years ago and studied holistic studies and got into psychoneuroimmunology, which is just using your mind, body, and spirit to reprogram your DNA and your mind. I mean, this was years and years ago. Shit, when I first came in, I was into John Bradshaw's stuff for years, which is about doing shadow work, okay, about the dysfunctional families and stuff like that, which we all know, we all have some, and I have some right today. But my point is, I'm still doing it. You know, if you think you're going to go get fixed in Alcoholics Anonymous in 12 weeks, you got a rude awakening. That's my take on it. Just me. I'm not saying it's you.
It's like ayahuasca. People think they're going to do ayahuasca. I knew years ago, you know, there is actually a couple true things in that book, Alcoholics Anonymous. One was I drank for effect, absolutely. And what was the other one? God damn, I forgot my train of thought. I was thinking about ayahuasca.
An awakening?
Oh man, it doesn't matter. Man, what was I? I had to say that other one. I forgot. But I knew, for me, I knew one thing wasn't going to fix me. That's what it is. That it's deeper than just that drugs and alcohol are just a symptom of my disease. No. And so those two things, absolutely, I drank for effect. Absolutely, there was. I never did that. Did you ever have one? No. The question should have been, did you ever try to have one? No. Never was I interested from the very first day I drank in having one fucking beer. Where I'm from, what the fuck is the point in having one beer? You drink a beer, you drink where I'm from to get drunk. And then you're drunk and you're rolling around at the keg party fighting your buddy. I mean, this is high school. Now I'm a grown man. But that was my introduction to alcohol. You know, you go to Red Sox games, you get hammered, I somehow equated, because I fell for the marketing and PR campaign of the alcohol, that like somehow the more I drank, the tougher I was. The more I drank, it helped me deal with my feelings and my emotions. It didn't do anything but make me become a degenerate, problem drinker, and eventually an IV heroin addict, which was just a self-fulfilling prophecy because of a label placed upon me that, like, dude, I shouldn't have had to have become a fucking expert in this in order to get sober. But no one gives a fuck about you. No one cares. No one's coming to save you. You are a dollar sign to everyone and everything. You want to know what? Including me. I ain't gonna fucking lie. You're a dollar sign to me too. So I ain't gonna sit here and say I'm better than anyone else and I ain't trying to make money. I'm trying to make money too. The thing is, I ain't fucking lying to you, and I'm selling you. They're trying to sell you some program to I don't even know, a road to absolutely nowhere. And then they put down everything that actually helps you outside of the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, like the shadow work, like the inner child work, like possible hallucinogens. But that ain't gonna fix you. It's a life habit to become a drug addict, and it's a life habit to become a healthy, wealthy, sovereign being.
Right.
That's what I want to be. I don't want to be a slave to AA. I knew
Yeah.
that from day one. I would hear these people with 10 years sober talking about going on a cruise with their wife and having to make sure that they know where the AA meetings are when they're on their 10-day cruise. Like, dude, I was 24 years old and I said, I know I don't want that. I very rarely saw what I wanted. I saw a whole lot of what I didn't want. And so I wrote the whole thing off and I became my own, like, worst enemy. They got me to do it to myself. Once I wrote a 4-step and I learned to self-abuse myself, and every time I copped a resentment, I was to write down how selfish I was, how dishonest I was, how self-seeking I was, how frightened I was, my mistaken thinking, like all right. But I was surrounded by predators that were taking advantage of my empathy and my, because I'm an empath. I like to give. I was around a bunch of takers that, yeah, I was copping a resentment because you're a fucking con man taking advantage of me. And then the con man's going to tell me to go write inventory and turn it all around back on myself and blame myself why he then abuses. Did you ever hear the word boundaries? You ever hear the word boundaries in 12-step meetings?
Yeah, no.
Ever? Feelings, emotions? Never. It's
Anger, you allowed to be angry? Oh no, God, that's the luxury of
some of the
normal
most
men.
angriest people are in there, right? Everyone's got an angry Mike that's at the meeting. You know, it's like, or angry Joe. Like, it's like, dude, this is just. But there was nowhere to go. There's no. I was like this with the cult leader, and I'm going to the cult leader saying something's not right here. This doesn't make sense. And meanwhile, he's the one who's cooking up everything behind. He set up the whole house of cards. He's been doing it for 20 something years. And I'm going, hey, something's not right here. Dude, do you see what's going on here? Look at what's going on. Look at this. Look, how can you not see this? Until eventually I was like, oh, it was my father. My father said, Rainey, the fish stinks from the head down. And I just was like, took me 15 years to realize the whole thing, the whole thing is bogus. The whole thing, all the way back to Bill Wilson, all the way back to Dr. Selkworth, all the way back even beyond that to, right? It's like, but they wouldn't have made money off me for the last 20 years. They made my friend Colleen Murray, rest in peace, Colleen. They made millions of dollars off of her. She lived in treatment for like 20 years, basically. Since 16 years old, she went to AA. She passed away 2 weeks ago. She's finally out of the pain. Fentanyl didn't kill her. Alcoholics Anonymous killed her. Being told since she was 16 years old that she was powerless, that she was selfish, that no human power could relieve her alcoholism. We talked for hours and hours and hours going, the fuck? What is going? How does everyone not see this? But we couldn't stay sober. So we always thought there was something wrong with us. And then in the last year, we figure out it's a big scam. It's a big con. It always has been. It always will be. It's never going anywhere. So don't try to change it. Don't try to be a part of it. Just escape it and move on with your life. And I thought that's what she was doing. But she was still in sober living. She couldn't handle that, dude, it's so toxic. And so you finally hit your emotional set point, you get high. It's fucking playing Russian roulette today with the dope. You don't know how strong it is. And you snort a bag, you shoot a bag, and you don't wake up.
Yeah, that's some sad shit. You got some sad stories around you, and so do I. You know, I want to get back to that shadow work when I was telling you about I was sabotaging myself. You know what? I just came to it comes to me real quick. You know, like that all had to happen to get to me where I'm at right now. That's the weird part about it is because where I was back then, it wasn't really right. I don't think. You know, it wasn't like right. I evolved through all those, going back into the cave and coming back out. I wasn't the same person. It's just like when they say you relapse and you come back, oh, you lost everything. Well, that's bullshit. You didn't lose everything. I didn't lose nothing when I went back into the cave. I was like AMA. I went back into the cave, but guess what? When I came back, I knew a bunch more stuff. And then when I got back on the track and I was searching more different stuff, I found out different stuff that even evolved me, raised my subconscious into my conscious. And I did a lot of shadow work, and I didn't even know I was doing it. Well, I was doing it, but you know, I didn't know how important it was. And today I can see the track that I'm on today is complete. Who knows if I would have stuck over there and did the Four Peaks Recovery Center, I might have still been in that whole cycle of like you were talking about treatment centers and all this other shit, right? Maybe I wouldn't. Maybe I've been involved out of it. But guess what? Me and Rainey are here today to tell you that we transitioned out of that, and this is where we are today. We understand. Here, I like to give to the people, just to the newcomers coming out of detox, coming out of rehabs, ladies, people, listen, you're going to Alcoholics Anonymous, do not do this. First of all, I will recommend you do not go to step meetings, do not go to big book meetings, do not even get a sponsor, okay? Go late, because then you won't get all the commercials and the brainwashing of the repetition. Go for some community connection if you want, okay? Find a couple friends that are like-minded, but here's the deal. Don't do this. Do not do a fourth and fifth step in a damn meeting in front of strangers, because they will take the ice. I used to see it all the time. Poor girl, young girl, vulnerable. And she found Alcoholics Anonymous, and she finally found all these friends that have this shit in common. And she's telling her fourth and fifth step right in the meetings. And they're going to take advantage of that. And they're going to listen to it. They're going to observe it. And they're going to use it against you eventually. Be careful. This trust shit, this trust stuff, don't trust everybody in Alcoholics Anonymous. Take your time. You'll feel when you can trust maybe somebody. Today, I don't trust too many people. Still today, I don't buy this trust everybody stuff and tell everybody all your shit. I don't even trust psychologists or psychoanalysts. If only had, how do you know they only had 6 months? I always ask them, how much time you have? What's your, I interview them. They don't interview me. I interview my doctors, my lawyers, my garage person, the landscaper. I don't care. I interview them. I ask them questions, you know. So be careful of this fourth, fifth, eighth, and ninth. This, be careful. That eighth and ninth can land you in jail. Okay, it could put you in prison, confessing all your sins and thinking they're going to resolve you of your sin like a priest.
God is going to take care of you.
You'll get in more trouble sometimes, a lot of times, by doing this eighth and ninth with people, going back to people and telling them what you did, didn't do. Be very careful, please.
It's all because the whole thing is but BS. What does going back and making amends, like, what does that have to do with me sticking a needle in my arm? I wasn't like the prototypical drug addict that was lying, cheating, and stealing. That wasn't me. So when it came to making amends, honestly, where I got lucky, a lot of my amends were living amends. I just had to be a good person the rest of my life, not sell drugs again. Oh, okay, not that big of a deal. So I was fortunate that although the whole thing is it's just bullshit, man. It's just complete and utter. And they're not gonna, there's nothing else. When I look back, I don't know how many times I heard, Rainey, what are you gonna do differently? And I was never offered anything different. It was do the 12 steps again, but call it shadow work this time. That's not shadow work. Like, beating myself up, telling myself how selfish I am and how self-centered I am and how dishonest I am and how the fear helped me, you know, realizing how afraid I was, that helped me. But other than that, that didn't, the real shadow work that I've done, realizing that I'm a high achiever, and part of being a high achiever is I get shit done, right? I'm in the room, I'm having $1 million conversations with people, I'm making stuff happen, I'm a mover, I'm a shaker, I get shit done. Well, the shadow aspect of that is I'm highly critical. I have an inner critic that's got a blowhorn in its mouth and a drive for perfectionism that'll fucking near kill me. So that's the shadow aspect of being a high achiever, you know? Everybody has a shadow. The sun is out, you have a shadow. You're just not aware of it. I used to think that it had to do with like deviant behaviors and stuff that it's not. It doesn't necessarily mean it's negative or it's dark or it's this, that, or the third. It means when you stand in the sun, there's a shadow. You're not aware of it. Like, I brought I think the solution to addiction is consciousness. Once you become conscious that the 12 steps is bullshit, once you become conscious that you are in control of everything that you consume in your ears, your mouth, everything, what you put on your body, and then you realize that the powers that be are trying to poison you and kill you with deodorant, with fluoride, with high fructose corn syrup, with drugs, with vaccines, with all this other stuff, and they're trying to tell you that you're trying to help you. If you just take the microcosm of the con and the multi-level marketing scheme that the 12 steps are and magnify it to the collective, and
Collective.
you'll be free. You will set yourself free and you will create the life that you want to live. And that's what I'm doing. Do I have millions of dollars in the bank right now? Not yet. I just started a year ago. I just started believing in myself at 43 years old. And what I was able to co create, not believing in myself, was pretty fucking dope. So, what I'm going to be able to co create, believing in myself, and every time I get a thought of what I don't want, I catch myself and I think about what I do want, because we're magnets. And if you think about what you don't want, you're going to attract it and wonder why you're getting it. You're thinking about it. When you're in recovery, all you're doing is thinking about how you're not doing drugs. It's the same side of the coin. It's for me, it was torture. It was torture. Now I just live my life, and I work every day on deprogramming myself from thinking I'm selfish, from thinking I need God to not use, from thinking like I became so habitualized in blaming myself for everything that happened, which can be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing. Like when predatory people are doing predatory things, that's not on me. Like, so that's why I remove myself from those groups. I don't even hang out with those kinds of people to be preyed upon. But now if it happens, I listen to my gut, I listen to my instinct, and I'm going to cut you out of my life. I'm going to, you're not going to, I'm going to listen to my feelings, because your feelings are a radar for telling you, and it's not judgmental. Dude, they have an answer for everything in that cult. Whatever you do, whatever you say is spun back on you. Like
Yeah.
anyone who's
They,
participated in
they,
these,
they can't do that to us anymore, though, Rainey. And you know
I
that.
wouldn't even waste my time arguing. It's
It
just
doesn't
like,
matter.
yo,
I don't
please.
argue. You know what? I don't debate with them. I don't argue with them. Let me just take this. How do I shut this phone off? I can't even see it.
There's nothing to debate anymore.
Here's the deal: the benefits of shadow. Yeah, like Rainey said, positive and negative. The shadow isn't negative. Let me get this. This is Danette. Hello, Danette. I'm on a podcast right now. Can I call you right back? Bye. That's my daughter. So there's positive and negative, right? And it's okay to look at the dark side. They call it the dark side, but that's the shadow. The shadow's dark. It's okay to look at some of the stuff that we can acknowledge. Like Rainey said, he's honest, being honest. Hey, he's going to make some money. He's going to try to make some money, right? But he's honest about it. And he tells you exactly, he's going to give you some information, like myself, about how it comes from you, okay? But here are some of the benefits of this type of work that we're talking about, which you don't get from the 12-step. Call it anything you want. I don't care what you call it, but it's a confidence and self-esteem building. It improves creativity, builds better relationship with others, okay? It's practice of self-acceptance, discovering your hidden talents. That's big. But we don't have to deny that we don't have to say we're pieces of shit. We have no talents. Increases your compassion level, have better clarity and awareness, raising your consciousness, improve your overall wellness, health, body, mind, spirit. I like that I like that stuff. Let's go somewhere with this. Once an alcoholic addict, always an alcoholic addict. Once, what a bunch of shit. See that labels? They love to label us because with labels, they can control us. Democrat, Republican, I don't care. I'm I'm deprogramming from a lot of different things, not just alcohol and drugs, from society. But this, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. Bullshit. Now, Rainey?
Yeah, I believed it. Whatever you believe is gonna that's why the perfect way to say my experience was it was a self-fulfilling prophecy because you talked about self-sabotage. I was the king of self-sabotage. I came, I in a way got addicted to digging myself out from the gutter, getting up to the top, and then as soon as I'm at the top, about to step to the next level, boom, shoot myself in the foot. And the way that I've done that over the last 20 years was with drugs and alcohol, because once you take the first one, you lose and you go back to zero. And
Once an alcoholic, always an
yeah,
alcoholic. Once an addict, always, what a bullshit.
that's what. So
And when I,
once I took one, boom, and it just kept happening, and it was bullshit. It was
that's how they
because I
control.
believed it. That's how they control. They got me to believe it, so that every time that's what happened.
Yeah, you're an addict. It's a disease. It's not you. You don't have to be responsible for it. Why should you be responsible for something? Just give your will in your life and your care over to God or Alcoholics Anonymous or any society or the government. Let's talk about, I go further. When I talk about deprogramming, I'm deprogramming from society, from all the lies that go back thousands of years. When I was in Italy, I walked the Colosseum and I could see I could feel and sense all the bullshit lies back then that are the exact same thing as today. We're deprogramming from a lot of different things, but that lie, they want to keep us controlled with this. You're an addict, always an addict. Here's another.
So in everything, you're going to be an addict in sex. You're going to be an addict in food. You're going to be an addict in gambling. You're going to be an addict in this and an addict in that and an addict in. It's like everything is. It's like, dude, stop. Like, and the thing is my experience didn't align to it, because I'd be driving to the drug dealer, knowing that I was who was driving. I was having a conversation with myself, telling myself I shouldn't do this. And then I'm like, oh, fuck it. Like, it wasn't a mental obsession. It wasn't anything. It was, I had, more often than not, I had reached an emotional limit. I had no other way of dealing with it other than to get high. And then, had I never been introduced to the 12 steps, I wouldn't have believed once an addict, always an addict. So I probably would have just done it, slept good that night, and woke up and went on with my life the next day. But because they programmed into my head, once you take one, you lose all control. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. Once a drug addict, always an alcoholic. But then there's people that are being prescribed medication and this and that. And it's like, it doesn't make any sense. And I luckily relapsed several times and when I did the reflection and I look back, it was like, I went on an 8-year run this last time, right? And I remember making the choice after taking Oxycontin as prescribed for 3 weeks. I remember being like, you know what? Fuck it. I like the way this makes me feel. I'm going to run with this for a couple weeks, not knowing I was brainwashed and that it was going to go on for 8 years. I didn't know that. I was like, I'll use for a couple weeks and then stop. That's not what happened because of my belief system. I bought into the doctor's opinion 100%. I didn't buy into that I was powerless over everything else. I guess I only bought into I was powerless over drugs. So I really bought into that. Once I took one, I lost all control. And it's not true. It's not true. It's not.
How about let's talk a little bit about Bob and Bill. Bill met Bob. well, Evie went to, the Oxford group. This comes way back beyond Alcoholics Anonymous or Bill or Bob, but kind of Bill Wilson kind of coined this shit and presented it to society where one alcoholic or even in NA, because NA is just a spin-off that, okay, when I talk about AA, I'm talking about NA and most 12-step programs, CA, OA, I don't care which is Marijuana Anonymous, you name it. He coined this thing, one addict or alcoholic are the only way that can get help. And they're the only ones that really know us because they experienced that. And that's how we can help one alcoholic to another. An addict can help one addict to another. That is BS, because that's bullshit too, because once you go to detox and you're not drinking or drugging, what the hell you left with? You're not drinking or drugging. So what the hell you want to relate to the environment over and over again, because that's what Rainey's talking about, being in the environment. So you're going back into the environment of all addicts and all alcoholics is the worst thing for you. So let's not trust a person that isn't an alcoholic or not. We're talking about not drinking or drugging. We're talking about healing. So that's saying that the rest of the world don't know nothing about shadow work, inner child work, healing a dysfunctional family or anything. Anthony Robbins, okay, one of the biggest motivational speakers around. Okay, I know for a fact that if everybody didn't go to Anthony Robbins, he would break down, because Anthony Robbins loves it too. Anthony Robbins needs the people more than the people need him, actually, because you need to be self-motivated. Okay, if you got to go somewhere every day to get motivated, that's just like giving your will and your life and your care over to that motivational person, So be careful of that too, ladies and gentlemen. So we can get help from we can get the pointer. When I talk about help, I'm talking about the pointer to the way. We are the way. It could come anywhere. Don't believe this shit. They just want to keep us together so they can silence us, so we don't have to talk about the shit that me and Rainey are talking about today.
You can't have this conversation within those rooms. No way. There's no way. You have to be compliant. You have to be. If you're not compliant, then and just to make things easy, you're gonna be compliant. Like I can't remember what I did all those years ago, but I basically probably beat myself into submission because nothing else. So I went to AA and I was like, this is not for me. Like, okay, one alcohol, dude, show me your life that makes me want to emulate you. If you're just working for $10 an hour and you're the king shit at Turd Mountain or your local Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, I want to be great. I want to have money. I want to be in physical shape. I want to have great relationships. I want to have great health. I want to have great finances. I want to have great friends. I don't want a bunch of people that only are friends with me because I say what they want me to say. And as soon, see, I had the experience of getting cut out because I was the poster boy they all wanted. But as soon as I fucked up and got high, they just discarded me like yesterday's news. Right. And then where would I end up? I'd end up barking back up the same tree, ending up in the same place. So I beat myself into submission and ended up in these detox centers and treatment centers. And there's nothing else offered. If you believe in yourself, you're going to be laughed out of the last treatment center I was in, ironically enough, you know how they do, like they pair you up with someone. They paired me up with the most troublesome guy. He was in his 60s and he's like, this is a cult. And they thought I was going to like, because I used to be a big book thumper, right? They thought I was going to like I was like, yeah, man, I see what you're talking about. I've watched some documentaries about that. Now, I hadn't switched to the other side yet where I knew it was a cult, but the synchronicity of this guy in my last stance in rehab, and because it's a cult. If you don't admit to what they want you to admit to, you're your treatment plan in treatment, if you have a job, like you have to comply for your job. I never had to comply, but you have to comply for your parents. So they get you. And even if you're just complying, you're still submitting, and nothing else was offered. I grew up playing sports my whole life. Drug addiction is just adversity. It's just something I had to overcome. Had I never been introduced to the 12 steps, I probably wouldn't have wasted 20 years of my life trying to work within that profession or be recovered or be sober or whatever it was. I probably would have just fucking moved on with my life. I probably would have used for a little bit more or whatever, but I would have done exactly what I did 2 years ago. Like, I luckily relapsed February of, or I chose to get high after having 2 years sober again in February of 2020, which that's when the whole thing was shattered for me, because I used for 6 months and I was in a dark place, man. I was like, what the fuck? I couldn't figure. It was like I just had 2 years again. What the fuck is going on? How? Well, I reached my emotional set point. I was fighting with my wife. Boom, decided to get high, and that set me free. That 6 months relapse, or that 6 month choice, because that's where I started waking up every day and saying, I'm choosing to do this. I'm choosing to do this. So I was reprogramming myself as I was shooting dope.
Yeah, you know what? It's crazy. It's experience. Rainey's experience, my experience, his life journey, his experiment. That's an experiment in life. Here's something, rock bottom. You have to hit your bottom. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a bunch of shit. You don't have to hit your bottom. Here's what I found out about that bottom shit. Okay. For me, I'm going to tell you, I'll be honest. I'm going to tell you, I went into Alcoholics Anonymous 1984, I don't know, 38 years ago, walked in. I never, look, I'm not special. Don't put me on a pedestal. Don't even make me don't follow me. I'm a leader. I'm just telling you, I got to be honest, and I can't be ashamed of it either. I'm not ashamed of abstinence, and I'm not ashamed of, I never picked up an alcohol drink or a drug, a prescription drug if I'm sick in 38 years. But I just changed my habit. I didn't even have to do anything to do that. I just enjoy that. That's what it's like brushing my teeth. Okay. It's a habit of I don't have to choose to do anything not to do that.
Right.
Okay. It's not even it's like conscious, but it's not subconscious or unconscious. It's just there. So I'm not bragging. I'm not making me into anything special, but I'm not denying it either. I'm not saying, oh, I'm something's wrong with me because I choose this. Bobby, you still might believe in the disease concept or in all this other bullshit. No, I don't. Okay. I just choose to do this here. Here's the thing about the bottom shit. I seen people come in and they go and listen to this. They go and they listen to all these war stories, all the war stories, right? And they say to themselves, fuck, I got a lot more drinking and drugging to do, man. That bottom is his. I'm only a little peon. I got a lot more to go. My bottom, I got somebody close to me that said this. I feel like I should go out and do another bottom. And guess what? She did. And then she said that bottom was not good enough. And she went out and did another bottom. And it was worse. And guess what? Now her bottom she could tell stories about it, but she didn't have to do that. But she did it.
I didn't have to become the worst one in there.
Right.
But I did exactly that. I was that person. I was a 3-sport fucking all-state athlete from the suburbs. How did I become what I became? And there's no way for me to describe what I became, but I became what I became in it was a self-fulfilling prophecy, thinking that I had to hit I checked off every fucking tough guy gangster box, thinking that I wasn't thinking it. You know what I mean? It was just like, well, this is what I have to do. Once it didn't work the first couple times, but what work? Work what? They at 23 years old, for the rest of my life, the desire to consume substances was supposed to be removed. That's impossible. Like now, where you are, you have absolutely no desire to consume substances, but that took time. At 23 years old, like, dude, there's still a whole life to live. I didn't have to be abstinent. Like, I didn't.
Yeah, but how about let's talk about we only got a couple minutes here, but we'll get into something else. Radio is going to come back. We're going to do a part 4 in this, but listen, if we would have had harm reduction back then, people they would have probably exited way earlier. Not probably, they would have exited
But even
way earlier.
harm reduction, Bobby, gets you stuck. They don't have an exit strategy.
No, they do.
In my experience, okay, in my experience, there's no exit strategy for harm
But
reduction.
we know the exit strategy. We know it because it comes from us. We know the exit strategy.
Because I had to dig myself, get myself off the methadone clinic, because I had to get myself off of buprenorphine, because I had to get myself off of pain management, because there was no, they'll tell you they'll help you, and they'll bring you right into their little web, and then it's version 2. You're stuck just like Chuck, like you were in the other one. And that was it was every program I went to, it was just the only thing that changed was the accent and the zip code. And they were all trying to sell me some program that was just the 12 steps.
That's you know what? I'm talking about not the governmental harm reduction, okay? Controlled by the government. Be careful of that. The harm reduction controlled by the government. We create our own harm reduction. I mean, people, I got a couple guys that could be coming on the channel, and I know Rainey does harm reduction in his own life. And it's about a choice that maybe I want to smoke marijuana, okay? Maybe I want to microdose. Maybe I want to take an oxy once in a great while for anxiety, or take an anxiety pill once in a great while. That in itself is a self-controlled harm reduction. I think Hams is a harm reduction for alcohol, which is Keith Anderson. And I think he does believe in an exit strategy because it's not a government created harm reduction. He personally created something, but it's been in existence forever. Rainey, we got to cut this one down, but we're going over maybe the Zoom limit. But I'm going to say, everybody, please subscribe. This was a great podcast, man. Please subscribe to Anonymous Addiction, Deprogramming Podcast on YouTube. Come check me out come check us out on Anonymous Addiction at My Truth About AA, as Bobby sees it, on Facebook, and My Truth About AA on Instagram. Tell them where they could get a hold of you again, Rainey, and give them a shout out. Goodbye.
Yeah, you can find me on Unconquered Healing on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. Most of my stuff's
You just froze up. All right, we're going to say goodbye, ladies and gentlemen. Take care now. Bye-bye.